This tutorial is to design a web page with a form and a set of controls like text box, a password control, and there is a description for writing. We have to create a text area and a radio button and set of check boxes and one multiple selection select control. Then we have submit button, reset button, and OK button. And these controls needs to be grouped together by using fieldset. Two groupings need to be done. So we are creating the HTML file. We are giving the title for the web page as user entry form. User entry form is the title of the HTML page. Now the form can be created inside the body. Inside the body section of the web page, we can create the form. Before creating the form, we are giving the heading to the page by using h3 heading tag. User entry form is a heading which we have given for the page by using h3 tag. After that, we are creating the form by using form tag. In form tag, we are mentioning the method as post because we are transferring the password. So method value can be either get or post, but if we are using the password, we must go with the post method. The action is the name of the file or the server-side program that needs to be called for transferring the data. But here it's a simple HTML page, so we are calling the same page itself. After clicking the submit button, the same page will get called, which is userform.html. Since we have to create two grouping of control, we are using the first field set, which can be used for grouping a set of controls inside the form. Legend can be used to give a caption to the field. For the field set, if you want to give a caption, so we are giving the caption as user information. Inside the first field set group of controls, we have to create total 4 controls, 2 label and 1 text box and 1 password field. First, we are making a label as user ID and mentioning the label for label user ID, LBL user ID. Followed by one input. Input tag can be used for creating the number of controls. So we are mentioning the type of control as the text, input type equal to text. And we are giving the name for the first control, first text as user ID. Name is given as user ID. And ID also we are giving the same as user ID. So we can give the same name for name and user ID. The difference is that by using ID, we can change the style of the control by using cascading style sheets. But if you want to access the value of the control in a server side program, then we have to use the name. So name is generally used to access the value of the control in another server program, whereas ID can be used for accessing the style of the control by using cascading style sheet. Then we are using BR tag followed by a label for display purpose. In the label, we are mentioning the label as password, which is a label for password. Then we have to create the control. The next control can be created by using input tag. We're giving the for label as LBL password. Next, we are creating the password control by using input tag, input type equal to password. and the name and ID we are giving for the control as password. Both the name and ID for the control password we have given it as password. So we completed the first group of control by using first field set. Next set of control we are creating by using another field set, another group of control. Field set can be used for grouping a set of control inside the form, and legend tag can be used to give a caption to the field set. So we are using legend, and the caption which is given for the field set is personal information. Here also we have to create number of controls, and each of the controls need to be specified with a separate label also. So first we are creating a label for description. We have to take the description from the user. So in order to take the description from the user, we are using a multiple line control, which is text area, so that number of lines of informations can be entered by user in the same control. So while we are taking the details of the user like address or any other details where multiple lines of informations need to be entered, then we have to use the text area control. The text area tag need to be used for creating text area control. Text area followed by the name. We are giving name and ID as description. In the text area control, we can mention the number of columns and number of rows. How many characters can be entered in one line can decide by using number of columns. So we can mention the calls value. Similarly, how many number of rows of informations we can display in the text area, that can be mentioned by using rows. So 10 rows and 60 columns we have mentioned. Text area tag needs to be closed by using closing tag. Inside that we can write some informations that will get displayed in the text area by default. So we are writing as enter descriptions here. So this content will by default comes into the text area control that can be edited by user during the user entry form. Next we are creating a label for gender, because now we have to create two radio button for accepting the gender. For creating a radio button, we are using the input control. Input tag is used for creating the radio button. So input type equal to radio. We have to mention the type as radio, and the name for both the radio button we have to give a common name because it's a group of radio button. So similar group of radio button wherein which only one item need to be selected, then we have to give a common name for both the radio button. If we give different name to different radio button, both the radio button will get selected. That should not happen. So we have to give for both the radio button as the same name. We are giving the name as gender. The ID and value we are giving it as for the first control as male, and male will be displayed as part of the radio button. Both ID and value for the first radio button is written as male. Similar to that, we will create the second radio button for taking the value of gender as female. Here also input type equal to radio, and the name should be gender itself, because out of female and male only one needs to be selected by the user. And ID and value we are making it as female, and the data that will get displayed as part of the radio button is changed as female. Next we have to have a set of checkboxes for selecting the hobby of the user. For that, we are creating a label. BR tag can be used to go to the next line. After every set of control, we are using BR tag. Next label is for hobby because we need to take the hobby detail from the user. So in order to take the hobby detail from the user, we are using the checkboxes because we can select maybe one or two or three or none of the hobby. If the user don't have any hobby, then there is no need to select. So checkbox, we can select multiple element. So here input type equal to checkbox, and here also the name should be common because it's a group of checkbox. So if you are creating another group of checkboxes for some other details, then a different name can be given. But here, this is the details regarding the hobby. Different hobbies will be there, but it's all related to hobby. So the name should be given as hobby so that all informations which we select inside the hobby checkboxes will be accessible in the server side program by using the name of the control as the hobby. So we mention input type equal to checkbox, name equal to hobby, ID and value as swimming, which is the first hobby that we displayed. Similar to that, we are creating two more checkbox, input type equal to checkbox. Name is common in all the three checkbox as hobby, and the ID and value we are changing depending upon what hobby we are displaying. So the next hobby we are displaying it as reading. So ID and value we have changed as reading. And the last checkbox we are displaying it for dancing. So ID and value we change it for dancing. So for accepting the hobby from user hobby, we are using the checkbox. The user can select any of the hobbies. User can even select multiple options from or maybe all three checkboxes. Next, in the user entry form, we are creating a multiple selection drop down list, a select control. So we are first displaying the label for that because we have to display the language user want to select. So we are giving the label as language, and the control which we are using for displaying the different language the user can select by using drop down control, drop down list. Drop down list in HTML can be created by using select tag. So select tag, we mention the name of the select control, which is a for language, and ID also we give the same language, lang. Size, how many elements can be displayed in the control that could be visible, the size which is 4, so 4 elements will be visible. If more than 4, 5, 6 are there at a time, 4 elements will be displayed in the select control. Multiple indicates that the multiple elements can be selected from this drop down list. Now number of element to the drop down list can be added by using option followed by the value. So we have 4 different languages we are adding as option to the drop down list: English, Hindi, Marathi and Malayalam. Depending on that, we make the changes to the value and the detail that need to be displayed in the drop down list. So to include an element into the drop down list, we can use the option tag inside the select control. Here we have to include 4 different languages, so that's why we have used 4 times option tag. Second group of controls also we have completed, so we close the field set. So 2 grouping of controls we have done by using 2 different field set. Next we have to create different buttons. So we are creating submit button, reset button, and a normal button control. Submit button can be used so that the information from the HTML page, whatever user entered, that can pass the informations to a server-side program, wherein which we can process the detail or data. Maybe we can store it in a database or somewhere. So submit button can be used for that. Reset button can be used to clear the entries done by the user. Then after that we are doing a normal OK button also by using input type equal to button. So we mention input type equal to submit, input type equal to reset, and input type equal to button. Value can be anything. So we are mentioning the value as submit, reset, and OK. Open the web page by using a browser. So we are getting the output, but here we can see that the field set is span to the complete window, complete browser. So we can reduce that, and the width of the control, some controls we can change width of the select control. If we want, we can change. And the description, where the text area, whenever we are entering, it is going to the mid part of the control. So if it is to be entered from the beginning of the description, then there should not be any space in between the text area and closing text area tag. So we'll try to make some changes, in which we will first make changes to the field set. Width of the field set can be changed by using style attribute. So we can include inline styling methods by using style attribute. Number of parameters and its values can be changed by using style attribute. So we are changing the width of the field set. For both the field set, we are making the width of the field set as 500 pixel by using style attribute. So in the text area, we are keeping the closing text area tag without any space, so that when we try to enter the information in the text area, it will start from the first character itself. If you give some space, then the control goes to mid part of the text area. So don't keep any space between the starting and closing tag of text area. We can change the width and height of the select control. Any control we can change. So we are changing the width and height of select control drop down list by using cell style attribute. And the parameters we are changing is the width and height. Both width and height, we made it as 100 pixel for drop down list. Open the web page by using a browser so we can see. Now in this example, if you're able to change the background color of user ID and password to different colors by using style attribute, kindly comment the line of code which is required for changing the background color of the first two control, user ID and password.